I don't think I want to change. Say it again. I need change. And what's right around the corner is what? New Year's, right? New year, new me, right? Nah, New Year, same me. That's how y'all be like, Adele. We want to be New Year, new me, but we're always like what? New Year, same me. No change. So we titled the sermon, I Need Change, because that's what we want to get out of the new year. Change. We don't want to keep saying, the new year has come, I'm going to be a new person, but then you end up being the same person, right? So our verse we're going to use today is Genesis chapter 30, verse 30. It says, but now, when may I do something for my own household? Repeat after me. But now, when may I do something for my own household? This is what Jacob said to himself. You guys know the story of Jacob, right? I think the girls might know this part really good. It says Jacob waited for Rachel how many years? Y'all are wrong, actually. Nope. It's known as 14. Jacob waited for Rachel for 14 years, right? So we're going to take a look at Jacob's life just a little bit. Jacob, in Genesis chapter 28, he was serving under Rachel's father, Laban, right? He served under his father to marry Rachel because he loved Rachel. So the agreement was he's going to work for 7 years, and then after the end of the 7 years, what's going to happen? He's going to marry who? Rachel. He didn't end up marrying Rachel. What happened was on the wedding day, the father switched out Rachel with who? Leah, the older sister of Rachel. But that's not the person he wanted to marry. So what did he do? He worked for the father how many more years? 7 more years. Another 7 years. And then after the 7 years again, after 14 years in total, what happened? He got to marry Rachel. And even after he married her, what happened? She couldn't bear children. Right? There was many things that were going on. And after everything ended, after Leah bore him children, and then Leah's servants bore him children, and then after Rachel finally started bearing children, towards the end, he says, but now, when may I do something for my own household? He served 14 years, and he was like, I'm done. I'm going to tend to my own future. I'm going to tend to my own flock. That's what he said to himself, and that's what I want us to focus on here today, because that 14 years of servitude that he did, in this verse, he says, I am done. I'm going to focus on my future. I'm going to focus on my new self and my new year. So that's what I want us to focus on today. And hopefully we take something away. And the normal thing I want you to take away is the verse today, which was, but now when may I do something for my own household? I need to change. At the end of the sermon today, I want you to go home and be like, dang, Anania said I need to change. I'm going to change myself for the new year. Sounds good? So we're going to touch on the first kind of point, which is the need for personal change. A lot of the things that we don't recognize now is we don't recognize the underlying issue of where we're supposed to change. What we do is when New Year comes, what do? I'm going to set my New Year resolution. I'm going to set my New Year goal, right? But none of us reflect on the past year. None of us reflect on where did I go wrong? None of us reflect on the things that went sideways in our lives. Jacob, he served 14 years. After he served 14 years is when he realized, I need to change. I need to become my own person. But for us, what do? We skip the reflection aspect and we just go straight into what? Goals, resolutions. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that for myself. And I think an analogy that helped me the most is anytime you go into the mirror, for guys, I need a haircut too, but I look at myself in the mirror and I say, I need to get a haircut. Maybe for the girls, you look at yourself in the mirror, it's like, I need to go get my hair done, right? You always look at yourself like, I need to do this. I need to do this. What I do now is I go in the mirror, I'm like, I need to change my habits. We look at our outward experience, how we look in the outward, and we look in the mirror, we reflect, we like, okay, I need to start changing my hair. I need to do all this stuff. I need to buy new wardrobes. But we never look at our just life in general and say, I need to change this. So the first thing I want you to do is recognize where the need for personal change is. That's the first step. If you don't understand where the need is, then how are you going to make the goals in order for you to change? Don't talk. This is one of the things that I think I really want to emphasize is, especially when it comes to our spiritual life, what we tend to do a lot is we speak about it in theory, right? We talk about God's love. We talk about God is this. And we just love to have conversations. But one of the things that we don't do is we don't show God's love. We love to talk about God's love, but we don't what? Show God's love. And in order to recognize the need, especially in your spiritual life, what you need to do is stop talking and just what? Show. And I'm going to add a reflection question after each point, and hopefully you take this reflection question home and maybe answer it so that when the new year comes, you reflect on it and you change. So the first question, it was supposed to be that question, but I got a bigger question. I think that's going to really help you guys. The first question is, what's one thing in your life that you've been putting off changing because it's hard? This is a really great question to ask because, like I said, we need to recognize the need in our life, right? What kind of people are you investing to? Like, what kind of time are you putting in your friends, maybe your education, your career, whatever it is? You need to recognize where you're investing your time and your effort towards. Once you recognize where that need and the effort is, and after that, you recognize, okay, I need to change maybe this circle that I'm with. Maybe I need to change my career. Maybe I need to change schools, whatever it may be. Once you reflect on this question is when you truly understand, okay, now that I recognize this need, I may need to cut off these friends this year. I may need to change careers because it's not really aligning with my spiritual goals. So the first step, say for me, the need for personal change is, the need for personal change starts with what? 100%. Second point, God's timing and change. I think this is what deters a lot of us from growth, is when we set these new year goals or we set these new year like aspirations, we want to do A, B, and C, is we expect those goals to achieve and be done within 3 weeks, maybe a month, or maybe 2 months. How many years did Jacob serve? 14 years. I don't know about y'all, but 14 years is a lot. One thing we need to realize is that change is not going to happen in this quick. It's going to happen over time. So the goals that you set last year for this new year, most of it didn't work out, probably because you didn't give it to God. You didn't give it to God's timing. Instead, you just gave it to your own self. You set a goal and you say, what? I'm going to accomplish it by 3 months. And it doesn't happen, what do? But so you need to understand, when you set these new aspirations, it's not going to happen on your own timing. Jacob wanted to marry Rachel within how many years? 7 years. That was the agreement, right? Did it happen? No, it didn't. He had to wait another 7 years in order to marry Rachel. So when you set these goals, you just can't be like, oh, it's going to happen this quick. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to start working out. It ain't going to happen in 3 weeks. Your body's not going to change within 3 weeks. A lot of the goals, like, this is not just for your spiritual life. This is just also for any type of lifestyle. In your personal life, whether that be your education, whether that be your career, it's not going to happen on whose timing? Your timing. Who's it going to happen on? God's timing. If you don't understand that, then what's the point? All you're going to be chasing is instant gratification again and again and again. I want to get this done in 3 weeks, and if it doesn't get done, but I don't want it no more. So once you recognize the need, you need to understand that it's not going to happen on your own timing. It happens in God's timing. So the second question, please write it down. I hope you guys are writing these down, because these are the questions actually when I was writing the sermon, I was answering it to myself. I was like, dang, you got to be better. So hopefully you write it down and reflect on it once you get home. Second question is, can you trust God's timing even when things aren't happening as fast as you want it? Many of the things I feel like that keep us back is our society nowadays. Our society tells us that we have to accomplish things, especially for a guy. Like, I'm a 21-year-old guy, right? Especially for a 21-year-old guy, you have to get money, you have to get a career, you have to get a job. And then by the age of 25, you have to be able to provide for the women that you're going to pursue and marry, right? Like, there's this standard that's put out into the society. And one thing that helped me is I started speaking to older people. Like I went out to a friend that I know, and I just asked him, like, how did you do it? He's probably around 30 now, and he's about to get married. And I asked him, like, how'd you do it? And the number one advice he gave me is, Anania, I wanted to graduate college in 4 years. I graduated college in 6 years. I wanted to get married when I was 25. I'm getting married when I'm 30. So one thing I learned is I don't just seek out my own advice. I seek out people that have actually went through the things that I want to go through. Like I want to finish school and get a career and get married and do all that. But it may not happen on my timing, right? So when you hear from other people's perspectives, it helps you. It helps you like, oh, okay, like I know if it doesn't happen for me in my timing, it's not only me that is struggling. Like other people are also going through it. So once you recognize your need, know that it ain't gonna happen in your timing. It never is gonna happen on your timing. It always gonna happen on whose timing? Y'all not confident on whose timing? God's timing. I love it. The third one. Now, all of them are important, by the way, but I feel like this is the most important one. This is what keeps us so enslaved to our past self and why we can't grow into becoming a transformed person, is breaking free from what holds us back. Laban actually was the father of Rachel, right? He was the person that was holding Jacob back, right? 7 years was the promise. What happened? He switched out Rachel with who? Leah. And even after he married Rachel, since Laban was profiting so much off of what Jacob was doing, the work that Jacob was providing, he did not want to let Jacob go. He wanted Jacob to be enslaved where? Right next to him. So who can profit? Himself. This applies to our lives too. Like I mentioned, the number one thing that holds us back, I feel like that has held me back in the past, I'm just saying this as my personal, maybe you relate to it, is people. Just like Jacob, Laban, people. People are the things that hold you back into accomplishing your goals. That's why I always say, like, surround yourself with people that are going to lead you to higher heights. Do not surround yourself with people that are going to keep you enslaved in a prison. Because when you have aspirations, when you want to do things, when you want to set new goals, when you want to become transformed, when you want to just break free, those people are going to what? Hold on to you. So break free from it. Break free from the toxic relationships, any bad habits, whether it be watching pornography, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be people. It can be habits. It can be temptations. Break free from it. Like I said at the beginning, I said a lot of us theorize a lot of things. We just like, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do this. Why don't we just do? Sometimes it's just as simple as that. Madrag, just do. It doesn't get as simple as that. You're called to act. You're not called to just malaflaf. I know I'm going to get again. You're called to act. You're called to do. So why don't you just act? Break out from the bad habits. Break out from the temptations. Break out from the friend groups that hold you back. Just break out. The third question I want you to point out and write down. I see girls writing, but I do not be seeing guys writing. Y'all just got it all figured out, right? Is he got it? Tell me the first question. I said the first question. Say that again. When you gotta change starts when you know what you need to change. That's good. The first question was, what's one thing in your life that you've been putting off changing because it's hard? So please take out your notebooks. Third question I want you to ask is what? You can replace the word what to who. Who is holding you back from becoming the person God has called you to be? When we look at the life of Jacob again, after 14 years of servitude, what did he say? I've had enough. I've had enough of you, Laban. I'm going to tend to my own flock. I'm going to tend to my own, what I have to do for my own future. So ask yourself that question, who or what, whatever it may be, what's holding you back? Point 4. I think this is the most important one too. I know I've been saying all of them are important, but this is important too. Take ownership of your life. After 14 years of serving, what did Jacob do? I've had enough. I've had enough of you just telling me what to do. I'm going to do what? Tend to my own future. We don't take ownership from, like, our life is our life. Like, nobody's controlling it. Isn't that like, have y'all watched The Matrix? Right? It's like this illusion that you're in, and like you're not in control of your life. And these people that are controlling your life. Y'all haven't watched The Matrix? It's a great movie to watch to understand if you can't control your life. I don't know how to word it, but that's a great movie. We're not in no matrix. We're in the physical world. The only person that can change your life is who? Yourself. Yourself. Faith is important, but work is important also, isn't it? So please take ownership of your life. God is calling you to take ownership of your life and also your faith and also your journey. Because He can't do the work. Who can do the work? Yourself. So if you don't take ownership of it, simple, you're just going to sit down and be like, God, I hope you help me accomplish these goals next year. Yeah? That's what you're going to do? No. You got to get up out of your bed and do what? Work. You got to take ownership of your own life. Fourth question. I didn't want to keep you guys too long. That's why I'm going by this real quick. Just because New Year's sermons you hear all the time. Sometimes it's the same thing. It's like, New Year's coming, please change. And the person that usually gives a sermon is like, change, do this, do that, do that, do that. My thing is just act. It's as simple as it is. Just act. It doesn't get more simple than that. Like, you don't have to wait on the New Year's. You can actually do it, Zari, today. You don't gotta wait until January 1st, 2025. You can start changing when? Today. That's it. So when it comes to like New Year sermons, even when I was looking at the sermon to give today, I was like, I don't want to be a motivational speaker, because that's what it tends to be when it comes to New Year sermons. It's like, guys, we have to change. We've been the same. We have to change. We have to change. We have to change. I didn't want to do that. All I wanted to relay and send this message is just act. If you can do one thing about your own life, about your spiritual life, whatever it may be, just act. You not acting is what's holding you back at the end of the day. Fourth question. Are you ready to take responsibility for your future and make decisions that honor God? The answer to that question should be what? Yes. Simple. Are you ready to take responsibility for your future and make decisions that honor who? Come on, guys. That honor who? God. I love it. So, running through those points, I feel like these are things that you can apply and maybe reflect on. Don't set goals without reflecting on what you have done this year. How do you know you're going to change if you don't know what you have done in the past? How can you expect, this is the most important thing also is, how can you expect yourself to change if you keep dwelling in the past? Meaning, like, don't dwell in the same friendships, don't dwell in the same habits, don't dwell in the same temptations. Don't expect yourself to change because you set New Year goals. Don't feel like you writing it down. It's like, oh, I'm going to do this. Don't. That's not going to happen. Reflection is what's needed first. And that's why I provided the 4 questions today, so that you can go home and reflect on these questions, so that when you set your goals, you're going to pertain to them and act upon them. Sounds good? I'm going to leave you guys with a story. I love stories. By the way, I used to live in the same area as our church father, and I was 13 for 3 years actually. I used to go to church with them. So every week at 3 a.m., like when Sunday comes at 3 a.m., they'll be my ride to church. And they'll pick me up, I'll get in their car, and every time we're on that ride to church, we were at a small church. This is my debut, but we used to be at a very small church. You remember, Robo, the small church? And it used to be a 20-minute drive from the place that we lived. And every drive, mind you, sometimes I'm half asleep, but every drive, they would always tell me a story. I don't know, sometimes the stories are really deep, I don't understand them. Sometimes I'm half asleep, I don't know what they said. But there are some stories that I always remember and like look back to my time. And I want to tell you one of the stories that they told me. I was going to tell you a very harsh story, but then I was like, nah, I'm going to play it light. This one might be easy. It was about a monk that is a administrator of a church in a monastery in Ethiopia. And this monk, if you guys know in Ethiopia, especially in monasteries, when Qadasi starts or divine liturgy starts, you see the doors that are outside, they're usually shut. That means like nobody can enter in the monastery. So the doors are shut. Like, you know how nowadays you see like Qurban, you see parents running to give Qurban to their kids. You see that, right? In the monasteries, none of that. Doors are shut, right? And then one day, Qadasi was about to happen. As soon as divine liturgy started, the monk was like, shut the doors. And the deacon went, shut the doors. While all this was happening, a king, the king of the place, he was arriving, like on a horse and stuff. And then a word was sent to the monk. And then the deacon went, received the word from the king's teller. And then he told him, the king is coming. Like, don't close the door yet. The king is coming. Don't close the door yet. Right when it was about to start. And then the monk was like, to the deacon, close the door. He closed the door. And then the king arrived at the monastery. And then as soon as he arrived, the king's guards started knocking on the door. Open the door, Tawad. And then the monk was like, nah, the door's not going to be opened. Mind you, in Ethiopia, it was not Ethiopia, it was just a country. At that time, like if you didn't respect what the king was saying, what would happen? You're done for. Adelle? But him, he was like, nah. Like, I'm not going to open the door. And then divine liturgy happened. I know it's a long story, but divine liturgy happened. And after everything was done, the monk was called up to the king. He was like, why didn't you open the door? Like, literally was about to just end his life. Why didn't you open the door? And he said these words. He said, you may be the king of this world, but when liturgy started, or when Qadasi started, the king of the whole universe has arrived. And the king later on, as soon as he heard it, like he gave the monk multitudes of lands and flocks, and that's how the story ends. Why do I bring up the story? I want to leave that to your own interpretation. Whatever you feel like that is interpreted as, interpret it in your own interpretation. Maybe later after the sermon, you can come up to me like, I interpret it this way, and hopefully that each of you guys have different takes. But I feel like this story is somewhat relevant to the new year. It's somewhat relevant. I know it is. But hopefully most of you guys understood it. Last thing I will say, I'm not keep saying last thing. Last thing I will say, I want to leave you guys with this one. It's a quote from St. Gregory of Nicaea. These are things that has helped me, honestly. I'm not just throwing up things. This is what has helped me in my own spiritual life, and hopefully that it helps you. It says, do not think that you are called to live a life of ease. The Christian life is one of struggle, and yet in this struggle, you must take full responsibility of your own actions and choices. I'm going to say that again. Do not think that you are called to live a life of ease. The Christian life is one of struggle, and yet in this struggle, you must take full responsibility of your own actions and choices. I think this goes back to what I've been saying. Just take responsibility of your life. It's as simple as it gets. You want to change? Do it. Act. Nothing more than that. So hopefully by the story of Jacob and him serving and him saying, I just want to take ownership of my life, so I'm going to take ownership of it, hopefully that you do that in the new year to come. Hopefully you take ownership of your life and you don't just set goals that are never accomplished. Hopefully you set goals that you will eventually accomplish in 2025. And with that, don't forget, New Year's Eve, we're having a praise night and game night. So please do come, okay? See you guys.